Mm-hmm. All right. So
we're live on Facebook, YouTube, and Instagram. So we'll just wait till everybody.
all right, we just wait on some people to start logging in. How is your throat?
A little better, but boy, I'm so tired.
Yes, I know.
Yeah, I'm really struggling to stay awake.
Okay, we have about 10 people now.
Okay.
And then we'll start, I guess. You can do an introduction because we're going to have people abroad also who are going to log on, who might not be aware of you. So we'll just do all of those introductions.
All right, no problem.
16 people. Good evening, everyone.
Gigi. Gigi is here.
Gigi Goetz is here. Good evening. And Doc, you are seeing the texts also.
Let's see.
Yeah, you're supposed to can see them. So
no, I'm only seeing. Oh wait, I have to click on comments. Yes, I'm seeing it now.
Right. Okay.
From H. Moses, say top of the evening.
Thank you.
And we have from Casper.
Good night. Good night.
Morning for you.
It's morning.
John Tuck.
Where are you? Good morning for me. Where are you? John Tuck.
Sheldon and I go good night.
Sheldon, good night. Oh, Patrick is here. Patrick, good to see you on. He's from Indonesia.
Okay.
Yes. Somebody I talk to all the time. Yeah. What time is it there now in Indonesia? Oh, after, yeah. Oh, Vanessa is also here.
Let her in?
Yeah, you could let her in and just tell her. Vanessa.
You mean Vanessa?
Vanessa, sorry. Vanessa. Boy, I always calling your name wrong. And you can just correct me. Thank you for coming. I don't know, should we have both of you at the same time, or maybe we should talk to, I don't know how the questions are going to come in. Suggestions from both ladies. How you think I should do this?
I don't know. I mean, you've slated, 15 minutes for each of us?
Yes, something like that.
Or just, is it going to be...
The last time it took us nearly 2 hours. It was so much.
I can't promise 2 hours.
I know. Neither me. My throat is... I have a sore throat.
I'm tired. Just coming from church, tired. Holiday.
So we'll do Doc first then. The questions. And then we'll do Vanessa. If any questions come, Vanessa, if any questions come for you, we'll just we're going to introduce Doc first and then we move.
All right.
Well, you can do both, I mean, then we'll talk a little bit about ourselves and then you can go into...
You can just do you and then do
And you're coming after. Okay.
That's me.
All right. I think we have about 25 people now. I'm going to give it 4 more minutes and carry us to 10 after 7, and then we'll just start. What's this? Oh, questions start coming in already.
From Patrick. He has several topics that he's interested. The sources of selenium
Mm-hmm.
from Patrick, and I am from Casper. He's a goat farmer from Grenada.
Grenada. So, Grenada, good to see you here.
Okay. One question is rare from Patrick.
Mm-hmm. So,
What medicines, vaccines, drugs that are considered vital must have on hand?
okay. So we're going to start answering those questions as soon as we start. All right.
7:00. We still have 3 minutes more. I'm feeling hotter.
Mhm.
New Beasties, good evening. Where's the show?
Oh, yes. Love your videos. Thank you. All right. I would Vanessa, Vanessa, like when you're just coming from church, you could pray for us. Just say
Sure.
a little prayer. We could just start now. You can go ahead for us.
Heavenly Father, we want to thank you for this day. Indeed, this is a day that you have made, and we will rejoice and be glad in it. Father, we put this broadcast before you. Father, we put the presenters before you, Mr. Bernard, the organizer, and Mrs. Bernard as well. We ask that you bless them and keep them, Father. Everyone that's supposed to be on here, mighty God, we ask, Almighty God, that this will be a major benefit to them. We ask, Almighty God, that questions will be answered according to what has been questioned, Father, and there will be increased knowledge and hence increased profitability in what they're doing. Father, we ask, Almighty God, that your blessing will be upon this broadcast and it will evolve into something that is beyond what we had imagined. Father, we just want to thank you for what you have done because it is marvelous and it is great. In Jesus Christ's name we pray. Amen.
Amen. All right. So, Doc, you can go ahead. So this is Dr. Dennie, and she'll introduce herself, and I will say a word about her too. Go ahead, Doc.
All right. Good morning. Good morning for the one person in Indonesia, and good afternoon and good night for everyone else joining us today. My name is Tanika Dennie. I am an animal nutritionist with over 20 years experience, both locally and internationally. I worked in public sector, private sector, and I've now started my own company whose main focus is, our company's name is Farm and Animal Nutrition Solutions Limited. So it means that our goal is to find solutions to whatever pain points or troubles that you're having out there. So it's not just restricted to nutrition. Part of the company is a consultancy arm where I go to other Caribbean islands and lend my advice, help set up feed mills, new poultry companies, and governments solve whatever problems you're facing, whether it be nutrition, production related, I'm here to improve efficiency. I am a advocate for using appropriate technology and also for trying to improve efficiency according to where you are in your production life cycle. So that looks totally different for a farmer who has been in business for 20 years versus one that has been in business for 1 year. So we do everything on a case by case basis. It's not a matter of one size fits all. So that's me in a summary.
Yes. So, Dr. Dennie, I'd just like to remind everyone here that I met her at Bodles when she was working at Bodles. Doc, could I say maybe 20 years ago? 'Cause I don't know how
No,
long.
it's not so long. It
Not so
was
long, you're
maybe
sure?
15 years ago.
15 years. Okay. And I met this lady, and at the time, we were just goat farmers that just let out the goats in the bush and they walk up and down, eat, and come in the evening. And here is this lady talking about all these plants. I found it so strange that this lady came and, you know, she was so knowledgeable on all these plants. I was so unaware of so many things at the time. So I learned a lot from her. She was part of my inspiration when I was, many years ago, into moving into new technologies and looking at the plants in a more in-depth manner. And Doc, so to start, quick stick, one of the
Yes.
plants that I did a little TikTok on it.
I saw you did it. Yes, I was
Yes,
so proud of you. You know what? I said, boy, the student has become the teacher.
yes, because I learned about quick stick at that seminar also. But
Right. I
Doc,
took samples. Yeah, I took samples of all the forages that were available
right,
in Jamaica because one of the things I had found is, in the past when you talk about leaf meals and forages available in Jamaica, one, you have different names for them depending on where you are in the country. And two, even if they knew the name of it, they didn't know what the plant looked like. So,
right.
I wanted to move it from a conceptual, um, oh, yeah, we can feed leaf meals to something really practical and tangible. So they saw what it was like and right then and there I could tell them what the nutrient profile was of the plant.
So we have gotten a lot of questions online. I'm not going to the questions on this podcast as yet, but people were saying it's not good for goats. It makes them sick. Many different things were coming across. One of the things also is that we as persons use the leaves for cold. A lot of people say it's a medicine for cold. But
Mhm.
can you tell us why this plant is such a good feed?
All right. So the first thing, everything in moderation. Even water
Correct.
is not good for you if you have it in excess. So one of the things I like about Gliricidia is one, as you mentioned, you can just cut it and plant it anywhere. So it is a good crop to have in times of scarcity. It's great to be part of a silvopastoral system, meaning, where you intercrop trees with grasses or other trailing legumes. It has a good bypass protein, meaning most protein that enters into the rumen, which, one of the chambers of the small ruminant stomach, the bacteria breaks it down. And then when the bacteria dies, that is what is actually absorbed. So that is a microbial protein. What invariably happens is that sometimes it's not the nutrient profile that you want depending on the stage of production. So normally it's fine. This microbial protein is fine under normal circumstances, but in instances where you have a higher milk demand or higher meat demand, example when the animals are growing or where they're nursing, you do want some of that protein to bypass the microbial degradation and go into the other parts of the stomach. And one of the things that Gliricidia has is it has some amount of protein that's a little bit resistant. So I like it because of that. It has tannins in it. One of the things about tannins, as we delve more and more into the natural holistic part of nutrition, we're finding that tannins have a lot of medicinal properties, and it does help balance the microbial population, and it helps sometimes some tannins, depending on the plants, help minimize the amount of internal parasites that you have. So tannins are actually quite good.
Can I
But
just say one thing though? I'm going to
yes,
stop you. So when you speak, you speak very technical. For my viewers, this tannin he's talking about, right? I
all
like to
right.
say
So the
why
tannins,
it's a
right?
natural wormer. Yeah, man.
Yeah,
And
yeah.
tell
So
them it like
tannins are chemicals, natural
that.
compounds of plants. All right. So when you drink tea, suppose you don't have any milk or sugar in the tea, and sometimes the tea might have a slight bitter taste.
Right.
The reason why it has a slight bitter taste is because of the tannins in it, right? Remember when we were kids, your mother used to give you a worm out or some green bush to detox you before you
Soresian.
start Cersei, right?
Right.
Before you start school,
Right.
right? Those products were actually quite high in tannins, so the old time people knew exactly what they were talking about. So it's the
Right.
same thing here for the animals. You find that um, some of the tannins help. Well, Trevor saying are too technical, but it
No,
helps
not saying that.
gastrointestinal development, right?
Yeah.
And when you have a properly developed gastrointestinal tract or stomach, the animals absorb nutrients much better. So in
Right.
addition to it having some medicinal properties, the tannins help other nutrients get absorbed better. But
Right.
in moderation, too much tannins can actually bind the nutrients that you're trying to absorb. And that is some of the negative effects that you might see when you feed too much of these plants that are very high in tannins. They bind other nutrients, and then what ends up happening is that you have some nutrient deficiencies. So everything in moderation.
Like for example, wild tamarind. I've known as a farmer who
Exactly.
eat wild tamarind, so just wild tamarind alone, and I've
Right.
known they have had deaths because of it.
And not only that too, the variety that we have, you actually have some wild tamarins that you can feed a little bit more often. Well, Lucina, not what we call wild tamarind,
Wild.
but
Mm,
Lucina is a group of plants. You have
mhm.
different varieties,
Right.
and you have some varieties that are very low in anti-nutritional factors. So anti-nutritional factors, anything that retards growth, but in moderation. Again, the same properties that Glycidia has, the wild tamarind also has. Both of them are above 20% in crude protein. Both of them have tannins present, and that means that you should give it in moderation. But in any case, it has to be blended with something else, because you really don't need 20% crude protein most of the time. When you look on the nutrient requirement of animals, a pregnant animal would have a higher nutrient requirement compared to an animal that has finished growing
Right.
and it's just in maintenance. So you have to be very, very careful, right? So,
One of the okay, go
so
ahead.
that's one of the things that I must say. The reason why farmers might overfeed it is they say, "Oh, it's high in protein, so let's feed more. Let's feed more." No, a weanling only needs 14% protein. A yearling only needs 12. Early pregnant needs 10. And for milk production, you need between 11 to 14, depending on the breed, and a buck only needs 11. That means that, you're taking that 20 to 22% crude protein plant, and you need to mix it with something that's around 8 or 7. You blend
Like
them
your
together,
grasses.
like your grasses, exactly. You blend them together to get the crude protein requirement that you need. So that simply means that you should not be feeding this one product only. It needs
Right.
to be combined with something else.
Right. Now, one of the things that something I learned from you is the bypass protein, and you mentioned it a while ago, and I know that we just skip over this bypass protein is a very important factor. Can you
Yes, it
expand
is.
on bypass protein, which I think that some of the feeds have bypass protein, some don't.
Yes.
And you mentioned one other word that I think, the bypass protein comes in is the nitrogen. I think you said something about the nitrogen.
Well,
Can
no,
you?
the amino acid profile that you require. All right. So, for
Right.
example,
Mm-hmm.
when you're having, like, if you're going to do artificial insemination or you're going to do a little bit more milk production, you need methionine, right? Which is a sulfur-based amino acid. Methionine is it. If you look on your fingernails, if you look on your skin, your hair, that's methionine mixed in with cysteine. Cysteine is another sulfur-based amino acid, right? So
Mm-hmm.
it has very strong bonds. In a situation like that, if you're like a dairy goat farmer, you want a feed product that has a higher percentage bypass protein so that you can get more of the methionine towards milk production. So you want it to bypass the rumen, and now you want it to get to the upper base.
What you mean by bypass the protein? Just so any viewers might not
Meaning
understand.
it is
Right.
the protein molecule is protected in such a way that the bacteria cannot break it down.
Okay.
So it bypasses the rumen microbiota, and it bypasses the abomasum too. And then it's not until it reaches the small intestine, like us, because
Right.
really, like in humans, monogastrics, most digestion actually occurs in the small intestine. So
Right.
it bypasses the four-chambered stomach and goes now to the small intestine where it is digested in the brush border, which is an expansive term for the villi. All of those people that like to eat tripe, and you see that brush
Right.
like thing, that's the villi. So it gets digested there and it's absorbed as methionine, and this methionine now would go towards the udder for increased milk production, or would go towards the reproductive system so that you release more oocysts, and that way you have successful, if you're doing artificial insemination, or you would have a successful breeding program. So even if you're doing natural servicing, your conception rate increases. So if you're feeding something that has a higher percentage bypass protein, your rate of conception is usually higher.
I don't want to miss that point that you just said a while ago. So in my terms, what I like to say when we talk about bypass protein, when you eat those, forages or the feed or whatever, it goes in and comes out quicker. That's okay to say it like that, right? Because would that be correct in saying that? Because it is skipping part of the ruminants and going straight to the small intestine. So is there the throughput? Is it
Yeah,
faster?
I mean,
The throughput is quicker, and the nutrients absorption is also quicker. Those things happen quicker. Am I correct
well,
in saying?
it's more like, I would put it more towards if it is that you did a formula and the formula was specifically to boost milk production, you know exactly what the animal is getting because it is protected against microbial attack.
Right.
Yeah. So it's almost
All
as if you're delivering a package, and some people fast and want to see what your package is. So you wrap it up in extra layers of impenetrable bag, or when you used to travel and you used to put on the padlock so that the people didn't steal the things in your luggage. So it would bypass all the 2-foot puss in the airport, and then when you collect it, you're the one that have the key. You can unlock it and get the contents. It's almost like that. That's how I look at it.
So some of the forages that is very famous in Jamaica, right? That everybody talk about is the mulberry.
Yes.
The quick stick, the wild tamarind. You can give us the technical names after, We
Or
also have.
they can join us on Wednesday for the technical names.
Oh, that is true. So before we go any further, on the 27th of November, which is Wednesday coming, we are going to have Dr. Dennie. She's going to have live displays. I mean, can you imagine how good this is going to be? You're going to see everything. You're going to be exposed like me 15, 20 years ago, 15 years. And when I got exposed to these forages, it blew my mind. That's what will happen to you when you come and meet this lady and see some of these forages. You know, I remember there were all some beans that run, you know, some special forage beans
Yeah,
that
yeah.
run. I remember.
Yeah,
I know
like
you might not have that
yeah,
bean.
yeah. You had a lot of,
You
but you know,
had.
we don't even have to get fancy.
I know. Yes.
There's this one bean I'm a fan of, and that's because I did study with it too.
I know the one.
Cowpea.
Yes. Yes.
It makes excellent rice and peas. But you know what
Yes.
else too? If you intercrop it with your sorghum or your corn, and then you harvest it, you put that into your silage, it really boosts the protein level. But you can also feed it by itself too. Something as simple as that, or
Gungo peas is another one
gungo
to
peas
that.
is also,
Yeah.
gungo peas is not bad also. Actually,
Right.
a lot of your legumes, you'll be surprised. And some
Mhm.
lesser known plants, you know, what we call in Jamaica the pasida, the bread nut
Right.
is also quite
Donkey
good.
peas. I don't know if you know.
The breadfruit is great. Jackfruit is also good. Calabash.
African tulips. I think that's the name.
African, yes.
Tulip.
Yeah.
African tulips. So it names. Yes. Tulips.
Right.
Yeah, that's excellent too. Yes.
Yeah,
So a number of these forages have the bypass protein in them, and you know many other good things. Sometimes what I do, I give my goats, I try to give them a little of this type of forages, like mainly wild tamarind I'm using now, or maybe sometimes the quick stick. I just give them a little, try to give them a little every day, and I always tell my workers, you know, this is like a natural wormer, you know, but it's very good to always have some of these plants in the diet every day. Doc, we're going to start because there's many questions here.
Yeah, I see that them asking me about which feed, but all I can give you a hint. I won't tell you which feed is a better feed, but I used to work for the company that makes. I can tell you about the one I used to formulate, and that was Hyperfeed, and I made sure I formulated to have high bypass protein, and it had bypass methionine as well. I can't speak to any other feed.
Right.
All feeds in Jamaica are quite good, but I can only speak to what I used to formulate.
Grenada Goat Farm need. You read.
Okay, from Rabram, Grenada goat farmer need to come together and form a union with a body like president of the association. Okay, then they can get things going. Okay. All right. Let's not that.
You
All
know,
right, from
Grenada is an untapped resource. I remember visiting Grenada last year, and the government had this lovely goat house that was just sitting there, not being in use. But they had a forage bank that kind of went into disrepair, but the bones of it is there. I think it won't take much for Grenada to come back. One of the things that really helped the goat industry here in Jamaica is the advent of social media. So, you know, you had people like Trevor and people like Farmer Khalil that were really propping up the industry. You had Cabo Ranch, you know, I mean, you have all of these different farmers out there. The forming of the Facebook group that that Darren Larmont started, you know, just all of these little groups coming together and really promoting the industry. And I think if Grenada should go that route, you'll be surprised how rapidly the sector develops.
Industry would grow, yes, because it really has changed the landscape. That is true. All right.
From Tichan Gordon, will this work for helping kids to get more milk to grow better and faster?
For the mothers, yes, it does. I'm
Um,
assuming you're talking about bypass protein.
right. I would assume that too. Yes.
Right.
It helps all around, both meat, increase of meat production, milk production, and the health of the animals. Yes.
Mhm.
From Gigi's Galore, can we get all these needed proteins and extras from bag feeding?
Gigi, I'm always, even when I was working for a feed company, I would tell people that feed is supplement. That means it shouldn't be the main thing that you're feeding. It should only it should only be fed in times that you cannot meet the requirement of the animals using forages. And that's the reason why I really believe that small ruminant sector is the way forward for food independence, particularly when it comes to animal protein. So what do you mean by doing a supplement? I mean, a lot of people, I don't think they understand what we mean. It means that it's not necessarily every single day that you'd give it. It means that sometimes the feed acts as what you call a pasture extender. So if you're not producing enough forages on your farm, then you'd use the bag feed to extend it, to make it last a little bit longer. But the times where you definitely need the feed is young kids, because they're essentially, up until their stomach has developed, they're basically almost like a non-ruminant, or like a piglet. So
Right.
the carbohydrates, the high carbohydrates, highly digestible carbohydrates, actually help to develop the rumen, well, all of the chambers properly, and it also helps with villi length. So the brush border that we spoke about, that you'd see in tripe, it really develops that. So that's one of the periods that I definitely see that you need to give them back feed and lay off the forages, because you have this thing called hay belly. You have these young kids with this big belly, and they're not putting on the muscle that you think. You say, oh, but they're eating a lot of hay and grass and so on. No, that's the last thing they really need. What they really need is the concentrate or the back feed. When it is that you're getting ready to mate the mothers, that's when you give them what we call them steaming up. Just before birth, you want to give the mothers a little extra. When she is nursing, you also
Right.
want to give a little extra. But other than that, and then of course the bucks you might want, if it is that he's active, then you want to give the buck a little extra, because he needs the energy. A lot of farmers get it wrong. They always think that, oh, we need more protein, we need more protein.
Right.
No, you actually need more energy.
Right.
So even the twinning disease, that's really plaguing farmers right now. It's an energy deficiency.
Which
So
disease you said?
twinning, or
Oh, twinning.
pregnancy toxemia. Yeah,
Oh, pregnancy toxemia. Right.
yeah,
It's
right. So
energy.
it's a twinning
Agree.
disease. It's an energy deficiency situation. So
Right. And
that's
that's
what I
why
would think about
sometimes
that.
they give the animals like molasses at the time when you have pregnancy toxemia, and they have
Yeah, it's
other products.
it's readily available. You have propylene
Right.
glycol that you also give.
Right.
But
Which is good.
as always, prevention is better than the
Better
cure,
than cure. Right.
right? Beer hops. Yeah, so beer hops are what we call wet distillers greens. It actually has high bypass protein too.
All
So
right,
those
from
farmers that are lucky enough to get on the list for red stripe and get beer hops, it's an excellent protein source.
What about
You
the
have to be careful. You have to be careful because it spoils easily. One of the things with beer hops too, if it's not stored properly, it's prone to mycotoxins, and some of these mycotoxins, like alpha toxin, can get into the milk, and some of these mycotoxins damage the kidneys, damage the liver, and affects the nervous system. Some of it affects the reproductive system. So you have to be very careful how you're handling the beer hops, especially if it is wet. You want to add a preservative to it, like citric acid or regular vinegar, to try and slow down the spoilage. So you have to be very careful with it.
or molasses? I
Um,
use molasses to preserve.
yeah, well,
You
okay.
can
So the
comment
reason why
on
you add molasses to it is because you want to increase the lactic acid, which in turn produce, well, the lactic acid producing bacteria, the lactobacillus, which in turn makes it an acidic environment. But if you don't have access to that, what you want to do is try and get it acidic as fast as possible to inhibit microbial growth. So
So you think vinegar or citric acid
yeah,
is the
that
better
can work.
product to use?
It's something that's readily available. You can vinegar you get from the supermarket, citric acid you can get from your, like, I know some of the farm stores sell citric acid.
Right. Question here.
From Nakia Sterling, what would happen if you overfed on wild tamarind or quick stick?
Death.
Yeah, death.
Yeah.
But I mean, briefly, what you'll start seeing is you'll start see some signs of deficiency. So the animals will start to become emaciated, rough hair. You can have abortion if the mothers are pregnant. So yes, vinegar is safe for goats.
And also from Mr. Gordon on what bag feed gives the extras.
I
Bag
already
feed.
answered that.
Yeah.
Alright.
All the bag feeds usually will have enough of that, but
Alright, from Mr.
But I said that I could only talk about what I
about
used to formulate for.
the one that she uses, she made, formulated.
Alright, from Patrick, these trees can grow very tall. How do you expect goats can eat them when they are 10 meters?
Cut and
No,
carry.
it's not the regular tamarind. What we call wild tamarind is just, it's a local term. It's actually Lucina. And interestingly enough, as you mentioned that, all right. So in Colombia, I remember years ago when I visited Colombia, one of the research station in Brapa, how they plant the wild tamarind very close to each other, and they don't allow them to grow very tall. So they'll probably get to maybe a maximum 2 feet, maybe 3 feet high. And then you'd go through with a forage harvester and cut it back. So
I think mulberry.
yeah.
Some things we're doing at that Odals with the mulberry too.
Yeah, mulberry does it that way too. But you know,
Right.
what the local farmer does though is they go around, they see wild tamarind, they'll cut off the stems. Some people shaft it, some people just give it like that to the goats. If you wilt it, the anti-nutritional factor that's in the lucina, aka wild tamarind, actually reduces. So rather than feeding it fresh, it's actually better to wilt it or to dry it. That reduces the anti-nutritional properties.
The quick stick. What I like about the quick stick? It's more a tree, right? And I don't think the quick stick can take the cutting, like, growing 3 feet. But what I like about quick stick, you can plant it in your fence as fence posts. And when you have drought times or, shortage, you just cut it and feed it to the goats. Some farmers just cut it, let it drop, and then the goats just come and eat it. Or you can cut it and trough it up and feed the animals with it also.
Yeah. Mm-hmm.
All right, from Soren Fisher, how much feed should each animal get per day?
All right, so normally you'd say 45% of their body weight should be total feed. Of that, you'd say 3% would be forages and 2% would be bag feed. But again, it depends on where they are in their life. So a weanling would get a little bit more, whereas a mature doe that is not pregnant, not nursing, would be okay with strictly forages. So
And the quality of the forages too.
and the quality of the forages,
For example,
because
grass
you have to put the
versus
grass at the right stage so that you
stage,
have the right amount of energy. So that's a rule of thumb. Usually 4 to 5% of the body weight.
right. And you just touch on grasses. When is the best time to cut grass and feed, and how you know?
Well, it depends. It depends on the grass, So, for example, African star, once it's fertilized and irrigated well, every 15 days. Something like Napier, king grass, I believe there were some studies done that showed that between 6 to 8 weeks would be the ideal time to cut it. So there's there's a way that you can look based on the amount of leaves, the conformation of the leaves. I'm not really, I know a little bit about forages, but I'm not a forage specialist. So I will.
Okay, I don't think
Usually
you're
the rule of
correct,
thumb
but
though for those grasses is 6 to 8 weeks.
I think you're an expert at forages, so I cannot differ. But you tell me you will have on demonstration on that day a piece of equipment that you are
Yeah, my
saying.
near
You
infrared
tell me what that
spectrometer.
is. Mhm.
Yeah. So it's a near infrared spectrometer. Every single thing every single nutrient bounces light at a different wavelength. And what the near infrared spectrometer does, it shines light, and based on how the light bounces, at different wavelengths, it can tell you what is the moisture content, what is the crude fiber content, what is the, for some ingredients, it can tell you the amino acid content, it tells you the energy, and the I already mentioned crude protein, right? It tells you the digestibility content of these grasses. So that is something that I've been advocating that we utilize out there in the field. I actually would love if more companies adopted this technology, but it is something that I use personally. So I'm in the business of making fodder or manufacturing fodder for sale. So I do silage and hay, and I utilize this NIR technology on my own grasses. So I can actually, when I sell you a bag of silage, I actually can tell you the nutrient profile of the silage. And I also once in a while go out and audit some people's pastures, and I can tell them, what the fertilization program should look like based on the scans that I've received. So yeah, we're going to be
All right.
showing that. It's very small. It fits in the back of your pocket.
Yep. Make sure you come on the 27th. You're going to see a lot of things on the 27th. Can you just imagine you're going to be carrying plants? She's going to have her silage. She's going to show you the production, everything about silage and plant. You're going to see it there on the 27th. Feeding mangoes as well. I'm one of them who feed mangoes very heavily. So
Yeah. And you were telling me that some varieties are more suited than others.
Right. So you can tell them about mangoes and what you feel about feeding goats with mangoes.
So mangoes, it's something that I know that Jamaicans don't really practice that much, but it is a practice that's done in Asia mostly, especially India, where there's a plethora of information about it. As with every single forage, of course, there is a upper limit to which you must feed, but it's actually quite nutritious for the goats. They love it. If you're not careful, they'll eat off the whole of your plant. But that is something that I'm going to discuss on Wednesday. But yeah, it's safe to feed mangoes, but as I said before, everything in moderation.
Right.
Yeah.
Next question.
I think somebody from Grenada said that it's raining a lot, and if now is the time for silage. Yes, if you have a 1 day to 2 day window in which you can harvest the silage or harvest the grass for silage production, then I would say yes, definitely try and do that. So the grasses that are related to the canes, so like the king grass, the napier, the guinea grass, they have enough, once you harvest them at the right stage, they have enough sugars in them that you don't need to really add anything to accelerate the fermentation process. You just have to make sure that you compact it and eliminate the oxygen. But if you want the fermentation process to speed up, you can add a little molasses. And if you really want to turbocharge it, you might want to add what we call an inoculant. It's basically a probiotic that has a lot of lactobacillus bacteria, which is a good bacteria to speed along the fermentation process. And this also extends the shelf life once you open it. So you can definitely do that for. And then, but if you're adding, I should tell you though, for my Grenada friend that asked about the silage, if it is that you're adding legumes to the mixture, you have to be very careful because legumes, they're very resistant to turning acidic. They have very good buffering capacity. So you definitely need to add something like molasses or ground corn to give an energy source to the lactobacillus bacteria. So
From Mr. Omar, Harpro is the best
No,
feed.
don't.
me not say anything about which is the
We're
best
not
feed.
saying
I
anything
can't tell
about
you
that.
which feed. Both feeds are really good, world
Yes,
class feeds. That's one
definitely.
thing that Jamaica can be proud of. Two very competitive feed companies.
You
I can
know,
only tell you about what I used to formulate. So
right. And I go and say this, Doc. I go and say this. There's a country in there's a country in the Caribbean, right? And I don't think we have this in the chicken world, and the chicken's not growing. But we here in Jamaica, we know how to fix those problems when we have, and the both feed companies do very well with growth rate in terms of the chickens and whichever problems, because our Caribbean islands are unique to certain things. I don't think we can exactly follow everything they do in the colder countries. And one of the countries in the Caribbean had problems, and I think you might be the one going to solve the problem, hopefully. So we are great. We are here in Jamaica. We have great people who know what they are doing, and that's why we are very successful in a lot of ways. We don't talk about our successes, but Jamaicans, we are so successful. Anything we put our minds to, we are the best.
From
yeah,
Nakia.
look, both feed companies hire numerous amount of veterinarians. It's a model here in Jamaica is actually quite different from the rest of the Caribbean, the rest of the world actually. So, and I think we're a little spoilt in that respect. In other countries, you have to pay a veterinarian to come and visit you. Some farmers here, they do pay their veterinarians. They have a personal relationship with them. But when you're just starting out, a lot of the feed companies, they will come and they provide a service because you're their customer. That to me is quite commendable.
All right. So, Doc, there is so much questions here. I think I might have to invite you back another time. I know you're tired.
Yeah,
Yeah,
I'm
I
still
don't know,
fighting the flu.
but yes, but Bakira, the question is there now. Basida, sorry, yes,
Oh, Basida, yes.
it's a good forage.
Yes, it
Uh,
is.
Where can
Excellent
we find the
forage.
bypass protein?
where can we find bypass protein? The best question for that is what, in the plants, Doc, in
Yeah, the
Jamaica,
plants have bypass
right?
proteins. Most of
Right.
the
Corn
leguminous
too,
plants have it.
corn too, right?
No,
Not,
no.
not okay,
The only time that corn has a bypass protein is if it's fermented and it's turned into what we call dry distillers grains,
right.
and then that has bypass protein. Or when you use barley and hops and it's fermented, again the fermentation process actually renders it a bypass protein.
What forages should we look for?
We talk about that already. All the
Yeah, but
forages.
the best forage is a forage that is growing on your land, the voluntary forage. I know on my farm, I do have grasses that I plant from seeds, but that's because I'm in it for commercial production and my land, I had to clear it and I needed to establish a grass very fast. And I did. I opted for sorghum Sudan grass and the Mombasa because I have slightly saline and high pH on my soil. But I always tell people the best grass and the best forage is the one that you have on hand.
Locally, right.
Rather than going out there and you're mowing down your good grass, your good trees, and saying, "Boy, you read somewhere that this grass is good or this leguminous plant is good." Utilize what is there native.
Utilize your native plants.
Exactly, and what you see, when you let the animals out, they tell you what they like.
What they like,
Look,
yes.
observe what they're eating naturally. Trevor, that's how you discover that they love mangoes, right?
Right, because
Yeah.
yes.
So
And when I was a child, we have this tree called coolie plum tree. I don't know if people know it. And when the coolie plum tree bearing, the goats run out when I was a child, go around the coolie plum tree, and sometimes we used to go in there and shake the tree, and the plums just keep dropping, and they're eating it and going crazy with it. So feed the forages like apple or Ethiopia apple. Goats love Ethiopia apple, mangoes, a lot of the fruits, they go crazy over it. And a lot of these fruit trees, they also love the leaves of these fruit
The
trees.
leaves.
For example, mango leaf. I feed a lot of mango leaf.
But you have to be careful with the fruits now. Remember, the fruits very high in carbohydrates, highly digestible carbohydrates. But the last thing that you need is to be feeding them so much carbohydrates that you start having a term called acidosis. So the rumen now bypasses being basic and it moves more to being acidic because of the type of bacteria that's proliferating that loves the carbohydrates. And then what you start seeing is and sometimes you see your goats limping a lot, and then you look around and you don't see anything that would affect their hoofs. Check your feeding program. Sometimes you're giving them too much concentrates, too much fruits that have highly digestible carbohydrates. They have when you see them limping, sometimes they have what is called laminitis, where now the bone starts sticking down through the hoof and you see them limping along. So again, everything in moderation.
That's
Be
correct.
very careful.
Because if you even look at some of those forages, those fruits, it don't have enough fiber in it also, right? Maybe, I don't know if I could say mango, but let's say the plum or some of those fruits, maybe apple, I would say, maybe it don't have enough fiber in it. So you always need the fiber in the diet. It's very important.
All right, so wait, I want to answer one question that somebody has. What's it, newbie? Talking about urinary calculi. All right, so let me tell you something. I'm wondering if you're from Jamaica, but a lot of the Caribbean islands have this because Jamaica is 70% limestone, and Jamaica's limestone is one of the best in the world. It's 99% pure. It's pharmaceutical grade. Right. What do you mean by pharmaceutical grade? The calcium in it is so available. Yes, we add ammonium chloride in the feed. But sometimes, because of the area that you live in, basically you formulate a feed for the entire island, but you have different pockets that might have more calcium than others, right? And if it is that you're one of those regions that have highly soluble limestone, that means that you have very hard water. The calcium levels that the animals are getting is very high. So even though the feed has the ammonium chloride, you might still get urinary calculi. And that's the reason why, yes, you can go to the farm store and get additional ammonium chloride. Actually, ammonium sulfate can also help too, right? They're interchangeable to help to reduce or to dissolve the kidney stones. So I want to say that little PSA right there, because I remember I used to get phone calls where people say, oh, the feed's still giving urinary calculi. But then when you start mapping it, it's actually a geographical problem. And you have to be very careful. Another thing you have to be careful of too, if you're living in an area that used to be mined out bauxite land, even if they haven't mined the bauxite as yet, so it has red dirt, these lands have high alumina content. And because it has such high alumina content, alumina competes with the other minerals for absorption. And sometimes you'll see some mineral deficiencies. And that's the reason why it's always a good idea to give a little free choice minerals, allow the animals to determine what they need. So that's the reason why you need to sometimes supplement,
Yes.
And I prefer free choice minerals or a salt block that has the minor minerals, not just the cobalt and that type of stuff. It's as much minerals as possible, simply because Jamaica has high limestone levels and calcium also competes with other minerals, and it has high alumina, and alumina competes with the other minerals. And boy, guys, they're really falling asleep here.
I'm going to just give you 2 more questions and then you'll go. This person asks about, what about forages that has milk in it? Like those whisks and so forth that has the
You try and all right. Some ways have a little milk. Let me tell you, I would err on the side of caution and stay away from it. A lot of these forages are part of the nightshade family, and it's extremely toxic. So
Right.
you have to be very careful when you're feeding those forages.
All right. One more question, and then I don't know. Doc, you choose a question and answer one of the questions there. So the last questions, and then we are going to bring Vanessa.
Somebody asking, how can we access grass seeds there and grass cutters? I can put you on to the right people.
Yes. Not a question.
All right, let's try.
Same
is true with somebody mentioned cassava. Yes, so that's the
cassava.
next thing.
Yeah, talk about the cassava.
Cassava.
Pet
no,
topics.
I am a big fan of cassava, and nothing hurt me more than because of politics, people were disparaging about the use of cassava.
Yes,
it hurt me.
Very true.
I mean, I always think that you need to take politics out of agriculture.
Correct.
So here's why I love cassava. It grows on marginal soil. The leaves are very high in protein, over 20%. The tubers, very high in carbohydrate. It's deficient in methionine, but once you mix the leaves and the tuber together, you have a very good forage. And what you can do, if you plant them a little closer together and you harvest the leaves every three months, it reduces the tuber growth, but not appreciably. And then, so if it is that you have cassava farms close to you and you see them harvesting the tubers, go ahead and try and get the leaves. Try and get the leaves from them. It's an excellent forage.
All right. So, Doc, thank you so much for your time. And, we learned a lot. Even I myself, every time I talk to you, I learn something new because you're a very technical person, very knowledgeable.
I was trying to break it down since you were like, no, Doc, you're getting too technical. So I was trying to simplify it.
Yeah, she speaks very technical, and I always
once in a while, if you come to my presentations, I can actually break it down.
The real thing.
Sometimes I have to remember to flip the switch.
To tone it down, yes.
Yeah.
So people, can you imagine you're going to meet this young lady, a very, very, down-to-earth person, and you can ask her anything, and she will be there all day. Am I correct? On that day, she'll be there. We start at 9 in the morning. We'll be there, and you'll learn so much from her. She'll have everything there to demonstrate and show you, and you can't miss her presentation. This is one of the most knowledgeable young lady in Jamaica in nutrition, and as you heard her said before, she's marketed all over the Caribbean. She's always traveling, so it is very rare that we can have her here, and I am going to ask her to come back again because, Doc, there are trillions of questions on there that we haven't even touched as yet. Thank you very much once again.
You're welcome.
So we are...
Bye, everyone.
Okay, thanks. We are going to introduce Vanessa now. She'll come on shortly. They were asking about banana. Yes, any fruits you can feed to goat, but in moderation. Everything has to be done in moderation. Now we are going to go, and I can't answer the amount of questions that are coming in. I can't answer them all tonight, but let us start now. Vanessa, she's going to introduce her company, introduce herself, and all those drugs. Vanessa, look half asleep. Wake up, Vanessa. Introduce yourself. You're on the ground.
She's muted.
You're muted, Vanessa.
Sorry, I'm a morning person. Hi, good night, everyone. Vanessa Chatry here. Pharmacist, veterinary pharmacist for over 16 years. I've worked in this sector among veterinarians, livestock farmers, clinics, veterinarian clinics, as well as with especially the veterinary pharmacies, right? So Baruch is a veterinary pharmaceutical company we're in operation for nearly 5 years, and we import veterinary pharmaceutical from out of Europe, out of India, and also out of El Salvador, right? We have a complement of team of about 6 persons, and we service the entire island of Jamaica, right? And our product catalog has been growing and growing, and we have been around. We have go to conferences and seminars. We give presentation, goods presentation, in collaboration with RADA, JS, Forage, also with the feed companies, High Pro Nutramix, namely. We work along with both companies, and wherever we can complement and whether we can help to increase knowledge, we offer our services.
All right. So I met Vanessa. Vanessa, how long ago? Years gone by when she was working at the the pharmacy in at Hypro. And I remember going to her and wanting different products. And as you know, um, antibiotics and certain products, you have to have a prescription. You can start right there, Vanessa. How that is done in Jamaica, the prescription, because you don't write prescriptions. You have to go ahead. You take the
All
floor.
right, so we supply, we are a distributing company. So
Mhm.
we import on large volumes and then we distribute to local areas. So say for instance, your two veterinary pharmacy, exclusively veterinary pharmacy in Jamaica, right? You have both Hypro and the Nutramix, right? Nutramix has recently come on board and they too are in the business of pharmaceutical distribution, right? Also, there are selected pharmacies island-wide that may have these veterinarian products, right?
Yeah.
Normally, how you attain the prescription products is through a veterinarian, right? So, Hypro has their veterinarians that are there like 3 times per week. And then now Nutramix, as Dr. Dennie has said, one of the greatest thing about Jamaica, unique thing about is how these companies has made the veterinarian service so accessible. So once you are you're buying their feed and their merchandise, one of the advantages of that is that their vet will come out on your farm and they will do a visit. So that is
Right.
a big, big, big bonus.
So
So
the
through that now they will recommend prescription products and they will make them available to you.
So what happens here in Jamaica is that the feed mills, we have two large feed mills here in Jamaica. Each feed mills maybe say have 4 vets per company on average. And these vets, once you're buying the feed from that company, and even if you're not buying the feed, they come to your farm for free usually and will check your animals from time to time, and you get advice, prescriptions. Those services are offered here to some of the farms in Jamaica. All right, so
So we have
we're
a question
we're starting now with the questions.
from Patrick. What medicines, vaccines, drugs are considered vital, non-negotiable must-haves to have or on hand for goats' health maintenance?
All right. All right. First of all, we want to start out in case of, we always hear our granny say prevention better than cure, right? So the first thing that we're going to talk about is sanitation, right? Sanitation is very, very crucial, right? It is, and we have products that are on the market that you use to disinfect and sanitize. That is also very important to implement in your, especially when you had the kidded season coming on, right? There are disinfectants that kill microbes and fungi, viruses. So the first thing you have to think about is keeping your houses as clean and sanitary as possible,
Like the
right? And clean,
coccidiosis bacteria
right? The
too. Like
coccidiosis
those.
is something that is overlooked. Some of
Right.
people, it normally happens about when they start to pick on the grass, when they start to wean from the mother and they start to pick, and then you see the bottom of the tail start to get dirty, and some may think it's diarrhea. Giving them antibiotics when it's not really diarrhea, it's coccidiosis, right? Regular antibiotics do not treat coccidiosis. There's only 1 or 2 products on the market that will treat it, which is Licox and sulfa trimethoprim, right? So you may think it's an antibiotic when it's not really an antibiotic, because coccidiosis is not an antibiotic, it's a protozoa.
Right.
So based on that fact now, you have to be knowledgeable about the fact. Say, okay, then at 3 weeks, when they start 3 to going up, now the window is about 3 to 5 months in which normally coccidiosis is a problem. And normally when you administer that drug, you will see them start to pick up more, and their health is much much better, right? As for vaccines, the number one vaccines that has to be considered at all time is the Covaxin 8, right? There's also their generic portions that are available. Some may know, I don't, I think it's triple vac. I don't remember the one that Hypro has, but Hypro also have a generic form of the Covaxin 8. That is a must have,
I
right?
think the tetanus is the main thing in Jamaica too that affects. Would I be correct in saying that?
That's which one?
Tetanus. Tetanus.
Tetanus,
They
yes.
right. And
Tetanus and blackleg, those are the two main, right, bacteria that we have to vaccinate again. So that is a must have. So your must have program is your vaccination, right? Second is your disinfection program. You have to keep it as sanitized as possible, right? That is very important. Thirdly, you have to have a program. You have to be knowledgeable, right? There is a program introduced by Nutrimix that we were all trained on called the Forage, right? Being a good farmer, you have to be diligent. You have to see what's going on with your farm. You have to know your animals. You have to watch them. It's very important. As such, you'll have to know their texture of the coating. It's very important, right? You have to be aware of their own body conditioning. That's very important, right? Also, you have to be aware of, you have to know how to do the formager check, the eyelid check, where you carry down the eyelid and you will, the mucus of the eyelid will be seen, right? And based on the color intensity, because as we all know, it's supposed to have a rich color, right? You don't normally just vaccinate and deworm an animal, right? You have to look on the intensity of the mucus of membrane of the eyelid of the goat, right? And then now, based on the color of the eyelid, you will determine whether or not your animal needs to be dewormed, right?
I want to just make a comment on this and say, please remember that we are going to have the vets there that are going to talk about these things in depth. Famancha is going to be probably demonstrated on that day, because one of the things is diseases in animals, and all of these things are going to be there. Vanessa will be there with all her products, and she's going to be, she will be there all day on that day. Please make sure you're there on the 27th, because there's going to be a wealth of knowledge. She'll probably have, brochures and different things for you, and you will get all the information, right? And everything she's talking about in terms of medication, I just want to reiterate it, that the vets will be there training and telling you about these different diseases, the different conditions, the kidding process, all of these things that she just mentioned a while ago will be at our training seminar. So you can go ahead. One question there: what dewormer are safe to administer during pregnancy? And I don't know if you had finished what you're saying, but it's very important to remember our vets will be there to teach us some of this. Go ahead again, Vanessa.
All right, so some of the vital deworming is very important, right? That has to be implemented, and also nutritional products. As Doc would say that um, based on forages, you're not going to have the comprehensive, even feed. You may not have the comprehensive nutritional value that the goat may need at a particular stage, especially if they're pregnant, right? So it is always good to administer nutritional products, vitamins and minerals. We have them both in oral form, in water soluble form, and injectable form. All right, so what do you remember is safe during pregnancy? During pregnancy, we have fenbendazole that is safe during pregnancy. So fenbendazole, some person may know it as Panacure or Safeguard. So we have a product by the name of Fenben. So that is what we use during pregnancy, and also ivermectin drench. We don't recommend the injectable, but more like the drench. It is safe during pregnancy and lactation.
Okay. Um, from Go ahead.
In
All right.
terms of prescription in Indonesia, I can easily get any and all types of prescription drugs. Doctor prescription is not enforced.
Okay.
Okay.
Well, in Jamaica, it is enforced, and we follow it. You have to have prescriptions. You have to have the prescription to sell these drugs.
Mhm.
That's what is legal in Jamaica.
Yeah.
All right. Any? Hmm?
That's
All right. So yes, go ahead, Vanessa.
All
Any
right.
other?
So yeah. So depending on what is going on this the animal at specific time, we have sprays. We have antibiotic sprays for wounds. We have multivitamins. We have dewormers. We also have a
I wanted you to talk about the sprays because I was talking to a farmer recently. I don't remember the name of that blue or green spray that you have. And one of the things is that it's an excellent product for cuts, but not if you apply to a wound that the flies had laid eggs on it.
Mhm.
Right. You can expand on that. The difference with that silver, the ectoline, and the
All right, so there are two sprays on the Jamaican market that are used that can be used for wound infestations. So there is Ectoline and there is Animazon spray, right? Ectoline, if there is maggot infestation, if there is eggs that are laid on the wound, do not use the Animazon spray. You have to use the Ectoline because the Ectoline has an insecticide property in it that will kill the maggots, right? So if it's maggot infested, don't use the Animazon spray, right? If it is not infested with maggots, you can use the Animazon spray, right? It is very, very safe. It's very, very good in terms of wound healing. It speed up the healing process very, very quickly. And also it can be used for horse. That's when you have the sores on the mouth. You can use it and spray it on them. It also can be used in the hoof. So normally in the rainy season and stuff, and you may have hoof problems, you may can spray it between the hoof, and that will help, right? So the more
the snowmelt
important
is
thing,
popular right now, Doc. The what you
right?
call it? It's
The
very
ARFs, right?
yeah,
So the
right.
ARF is you can spray it around, spray it. What you will do is dry it up, prevent the spread of it because it's highly contagious. So normally you quarantine that animal, spray it, and then you try and boost their immune system. How you boost the immune system? You normally use nutritional products to boost the immune system, right? So there are a lot of nutritional products on the market that you can use to boost the immune system. So you can use those and use the spray, and that will stop it, right?
Once recently they were talking that in Jamaican term when you have orf, I think they said they rub lime on it till it
Lime.
bleed and
Mm.
these kind of things that they're telling. And we don't have to do that. And well, I don't recommend doing that, but that was the old way of doing it. And people have to also realize that some orf is transferable to people. I think you call it
And foot and
zoo.
mouth disease.
Yeah,
Zoonotic
you can.
diseases.
Yes, there
Yeah.
are certain of these um, um, bacteria and so forth that can be transferred from the animals to people. And you have to handle the situation very hygienic. You should wear gloves.
Mhm.
You should, sanitize and make sure you handle the situation because even you yourself can spread, or from one animal to another or spread the disease. That is why isolation or quarantine animals that are sick is so important. You have to follow these things because you don't want your entire herd to get sick. Yes.
I got
You
muted.
have been muted, Vanessa.
Sorry. And that's where you go back to sanitation again. Very, very important because using the disinfectant like the one that we have, Dexon, that will kill the microbes that are causing the hand, foot, and mouth disease. So yeah, it's highly contagious. So once you see that in the house, you have to sanitize, you have to disinfect, and you have to move that animal and quarantine that animal, treat that animal before you can reintroduce it into the herd. So that's very important, right?
Right.
What is vital? So we have dewormers, we have vitamins, we have vaccines programs that you must adhere to. And for goats, that is pretty much for goats. Once you have good nutrition, I think it is very good. They will keep up their health. And as I said, if certain things arises, meaning like for the use of antibiotics, say for instance a dog has bite a goat or anything like that, you will have the antibiotic that will come into play. You'll have the anti-inflammatories that may come into play. You'll have the spray come into play. So it's unique to what is happening.
Right. Can you use Ectoline for ARF also?
Ectoline, I think the healing time will be much more prolonged if you use the Ectoline, because
I
the
agree.
Animazon spray has the two properties that is working with the Animazon spray that will enhance the process. And one is the gentian violet and one is the oxytetracycline. So you have the antibiotic that is working there and you have the gentian violet that is working there. And we
Right.
all
The,
know,
the, the
we all
Ectoline is mainly for the maggot situation.
right, it's more for maggot infestations. It
Right.
have the insecticide properties to it.
Right.
From Miss Nakia Sterling. In our area, we have a severe.
Severe problem of pink eye. What
What
do
do
you
you have
have
to
to treat
treat that?
that?
They have to, normally that is a veterinarian. You have to consult your vet for that.
Right.
For the pink
So what for me personally, for pink eye, I don't know. Well, I haven't heard of any of the pharmacies selling anything for pink eye. So what I usually do is get products that we use in human beings for pink eye, and we use it in the goat. So there's a cream or so forth or drops that you put in the eye for pink eye. And as you know, pink eye is very contagious, and you have to treat it. It's not good to just leave it alone. It can lead to blindness, and you see the eyes going white, and you know
And
a lot of
quarantine.
like matter, different things will happen inside the eye. So you should treat. And pink eye is actually going around in Jamaica now. So get a product from the pharmacy to treat it, and you
Yeah,
usually have to get a prescription to do it.
why I
To
said to
quarantine.
consult the vet is normally an antibiotic would have to get rid of that. So
Right.
the only antibiotic, there's chlorotetracycline eye drop, which is very good. That is on the human side that they can use, or the gentamicin.
Repeat that, the name of that again.
Chlorotetracycline eye drop. That
Eye
is the
drops.
one that is mostly used on the human side, and also gentamicin. But these
Okay.
derivatives are antibiotics. So
Right.
as I said, you'd have to consult the vet or you can go to a regular pharmacy.
Hmm.
From Gigi's Galore. Do farmers need prescription to purchase antibiotic from your company?
Yes, most definitely they need prescription for antibiotic. That's why we're distributors. So we mostly distribute to these farmers, to the pharmacies, and then the veterinarians will disperse at the pharmacy.
From Gentak Pink Eye, we use gentamicin eye
Right.
ointment applied
Right.
to the goat's eyes.
That's correct. She just said that also. Thank you for that.
From Sujay King, why I can't find Avermic Plus.
Interesting question. So Ivomec Plus is no longer on the market in Jamaica. Um, Baruch is working on a registration for Ivomec Plus for some time now, but I think Hypro has a product that has the chlorostrom in there. That is the ivermectin portion that will work with the Ivomec Plus. So you can check them. They should have something that can. You're not going to find Ivomec Plus, but you find generics that will work for you.
Right. Next question.
From Ayudeli, do you ever recommend the use of dexamethasone
Dexamethasone for goat
for
For
treatment.
goats to manage inflammations?
Yes, it can be used, but dexamethasone is a steroid, and as such, it has to be prescribed. So, under the supervision of a veterinarian, there are cases that do recommend the usage of dexamethasone in goats for inflammation.
next.
Right. So, it can be used depending on what's going on, mostly for excessive wound cuts, and all of that. They're used to manage inflammations, but
Sounds like some like surgery.
it's not something that you just use like that. It's a steroid, and you don't want to use it like that. You have to get it recommended by a veterinarian.
Right. So because there are some drugs that are there that, I mean, when you're doing surgery, for example, and different things like that, that is not really readily available to the public, I think, you know. I don't know if this is one of the drugs because I don't know this product actually. So, all right. So, I don't know if there's anything more. There are no more questions so far. If there anything else you want to add, Vanessa, please remember on the 27th, this young lady will be there and she will have all the questions in the world. And she'll be able to answer all your questions. All her products will be there. And, you know, all the experts will be there in every field in goat rearing will be there. We're going to have construction of pens and, you know, infrastructure, water and feeders, and the feeders, all of that will be there. You're going to have vets there, nutritionist is going to be there. You're going to have silage production persons there. Everybody. Plus, you're going to have a lot of farmers there. What is the numbers like in terms of registration so far?
171.
We have 171 farmers that have actually registered. That does not include the farmers that are going to just walk in. And we're going to have a live stream, which is out there. And NCU is also going to be coming there to interview some of the people and interview some of our displayers and personnel there. So it is going to be a very fun, full day, and we are going to take care of the farmers. You're going to be able to do, you know, interact, meet new people, you know, and just interact with different farmers and get different ideas. So,
From new business.
yes.
From new business, I've heard people give human cough and cold medicine for goat. Do you recommend it?
Giving it is one, but determining the dosage is a problem. Yes, you have the same active ingredient that may be in the animal, in the human cough medicine that they use, but the pharmacology of the product is the problem. Also, the excretion of the product, the dosage of the product. If you're going to give an animal a human drug, you don't know what volume to give because it is different in terms of animal, right? So, meaning that animals normally is given birth based on body weight, right? If you're giving in a cold medicine, you're not sure what volume to give because it's not the same body weight as you compare to an animal. So I'll recommend to stick to veterinary products than rather human products.
From Patrick, what's the best sanitizer to sanitize the goat pens?
And Vanessa, this Patrick here is from Indonesia, so you have to answer more, you know.
All right, no
Right.
problem.
Yes.
All right, so the best sanitizer would be not chlorine because chlorine is not active in the presence of organic matter. You have to use something that in the presence of organic matter they work perfectly, right? And there's product like Dexon, not Dexon, but Vercon, that is the number one disinfectant in the world that is made for livestock. Why? Because it is effective in the presence of organic matter. So you can look on the internet, any derivative from that is the number one disinfectant. Chlorine is a one bomb effect, meaning that you apply it now and it kill all the microbes in now, but you don't have any residual effect. That's one. Secondly, it is denatured in the presence of heat, so there's no longevity to the usage or the residual effect of chlorine. So you have to
Right.
find a product that even in the presence of organic matter it does work. You have to find the product in the presence of extreme temperatures it's still working, and also it is safe for animals and it's not irritable. So those are the properties that you have to look for when you're thinking about the best disinfectant for any goat or any livestock. Is it safe?
Another thing.
Is it
Go ahead.
non-irritant? Right. Sorry. If it is safe, it is non-irritant. Right. That is very important. Can it be used in the presence of the animals? Is it made for livestock? So that's what you have to look out for.
Another thing with chlorine, that chlorine is also corrosive. So any metal products or anything like that on your farm,
Right.
it would corrode, you know, very corrosive. And the fumes from it is not good to breathe in either. You know,
Breathing.
so there are some disadvantages with chlorine.
Mm-hmm.
All right.
From Nakia Sterling, does Baruch sell any product to boost synchronization in heat from form
No,
breeding?
no,
Heat
no.
form breeding.
We do sell, but it's for swine, not for goat.
Okay.
Okay. Any lesson on kid management, Mr. Bernard, on the
Any
event?
lessons
Modern
on
day.
kid management? So I will say something. I know Vanessa might have something to say from the products, but kid management is part of what is going to be there that day on the 27th. It's part of the menu.
Mm-hmm.
And kid management is so important. Vanessa touched on some of the kid management things. The main one of the main thing is the coccidia bacteria that kills the animals, the young kids. Also, that is one factor, and the next thing is the tetanus. That's the next thing, and that is the vaccine side of it. Kids management is very important because can you imagine you spend 5 months, let's say you spend a year to grow this mother, 5 months to breed her, and then you have the kid and then you lose the kid and you have to start all over again. This is where your profit in this whole process is these kids. That is why it is so important to manage the kids, because kid management, it is absolutely important. And I always like to tell people that women manage the kids so much better than us as men, because if you have a kid that the mother reject, you have to bottle feed, you have to you have to know what you're doing. You have to, for example, the navel, you have to use iodine on the navel or other products that can treat the navel. I usually like to tell people to treat the navel for at least 5 days, because you don't want to get fly strike, because once that navel gets the fly strike, you have the potential, a high possibility of losing that animals. And you get hernias, you get other things can happen. And it stunt the growth of the kids. If you don't want a kid to get sick. Once a kid gets sick, you stunt the growth of the kid. And usually it's the first 5 months of that kid's life.
Mm-hmm.
You want it to be
Critical.
optimum. You want optimum nutrition, optimum your facility, you, the facility and how you care the animals. Then you want everything must be very good in
Comfort.
that comfort. Yes, in that the first 5 months of the kid's life. And you do not want that kid to get sick. Or so what happens if the kid gets sick in the first 5 months? You usually stunt the growth of the animals. Sometimes you have the organs or different things inside the animal that don't develop properly. Sometimes maybe like the womb, or different things can be underdeveloped. Things like that can happen. Vanessa, I don't know if you have anything to say.
I would say tune in on Wednesday.
Yes.
There is
Tune in
much to
on
learn.
Wednesday.
Tune in on Wednesday. Everyone
Yes.
tune in on Wednesday. I think it's a very good lineup. I think there's many that can be said that you can learn, right? And to speak of it, I think pictures is worth 1,000 words. To speak of it
Correct.
is different to see presentations. When you have
That's right.
presentations, when you have pictures, you can see exactly, I think you can relate better. So I say, just as you're here now, just tune in on Wednesday. The veterinarians will go through it. I'll be
Right.
there. We'll have products on display. You'll have veterinarian access there. It'll be a great day. Just come out and all questions can be answered,
Yes.
right? And more can be learned.
So the Small Ruminants Association have gone through a lot. We have, we have really pulled a lot of strings to be putting on this event, this seminar. And,
Mhm.
we really want our farmers to learn a lot from this. And as you say, the visual is so important. You need to come out. Now, this is a question I've never had before. Coconut water, good for goats. I'm going to say yes,
Yes, of
because
course.
most definitely. And this young
Yeah,
gentleman
electrolytes is
probably
in
have
coconut
coconut
water.
water in abundance, because just like us for human beings, I guess it's going to
Yeah,
have all those minerals and all of those products. And for the kids,
yeah, it's
um,
good.
maybe if you want to give them
Very
coconut
good.
water, if the animal is dehydrated or so forth, and you want to make sure it is clean, And maybe you might be taking the water from a tank or a well. Coconut water, I think, would be a good a good match.
From
One of the
Zico.
things is that with one of the diarrhea, wherever you have excessive diarrhea, it's very good that you give coconut water because it has the
Yes,
electrolytes that will replace it is in a very quick
correct,
time.
correct. The electrolytes, which is something that we actually mix and give the animals when they have the
Mhm.
coccidia or or get
Di-
dehydrated.
Diarrhea.
Can you tell me how I can use sulfamide to treat cold in one of my goats? She is
She's
3 months old.
Sulfamide. Let me see. Sulfamide. It depends on the weight on the goat. Normally, it's about 30 ml to a gallons of water, and normally you will drench them. Drenching is critical, especially you have to know how to do it. It's just like a baby. You don't want to squirt it too much, and it cause aspiration. It can kill them. So you have to have the right material to drench them. You can get a syringe, pull it up, and just put a little tip, allow them to drink, and then you go again. You have to be very gentle and very patient when you're doing this, right?
Uh,
So depending on the body weight, so Mr. Bernard, for a 3 month old, would that be about 3 months old, about the weight? It
it's about the body
again
weight all
go
the
on the
time.
genetics.
Mhm.
It's so it's based on the body weight and based on the volume you have to give, right?
Most, almost all the drugs are all the medications that you use with animals, right? You usually base the dosage on the weight of the animals, even when you're mixing some of your stuff into the water and so forth. But body weight is very important. So every farm should have a scale to weigh the animals and then you can treat. It's very important,
it's like 15 to 25 pounds.
right?
All right. From Fitzroy. Where in Jamaica can I buy wiener lamb?
All right. So you can text us on that afterwards. Lambs are available. Um, next.
Bossy Boars. Are there any over the counter medication feeds available to increase milk production? Or what recommendation do you have to increase milk production during the final stages of gestation?
One thing I'm going to say, I will just make a comment on that. The free choice mineral. I have seen my goats feeding them and just giving free choice mineral increase milk production. I can tell you that. And nutrition has almost everything to do with milk production and the comfort of the animals. But any comment, Vanessa?
No, nutrition.
Nutrition is a
Anything with
straight nutrition,
calcium. Calcium is anything high in calcium and
and that's
electrolytes and minerals.
right. And remember, all of this will be discussed on that day because we're going to
Right.
have the nutritionist there. Khalil is going to be there, Khalil Brown, nutritionist, and he is going to talk about all these kind of things on that day. Please, you have to come.
From Marvin Powell. How can you treat stunt kids?
Oh boy. And I mentioned about stunt kids a while ago. Um,
First 5 months.
Usually, I find personally when a kid becomes stunted growth because of sickness or improper nutrition, or if you have facility problems or you have, worm burden, many different things can cause stunt. And usually, when those kids are stunted, I usually move them out of my out of my breeding pen, and I usually cull them.
And they
I
become sickly
curry
ruminants.
goat. That's how I usually look at it.
All
Also,
right.
I would like to say that Marvin, you have to be, and this goes for everyone. This is the first 5 months very, very crucial
Very
and
crucial.
very, very critical in what's going
Yes.
to happen. The stunted of growth can be because of the presence of cocci. It can be worm burden. So you have to have a program, right? That you have in your mind mentally. When the kid is at the stage, what you do, what you give, all of that. When you have that worked out in your mind and you can say, okay, this administration, you give that at that point and so on. You deworm, you administer a coccidiostat, you give a vitamin, all of those. When they're
Kid
out of that
management.
window, right? So that is
Yeah.
very important. Again, tune in on Wednesday and you'll hear more about that.
You see, that 5 months thing I just told you. You see, when that goat kid reached 5 months, let's say at month five, right? Anywhere 5, 6, the animal got sick at that stage. You won't get us, you will get a slowdown in the growth rate. But when that animal recovers, that growth rate will go back and peak, and you will have no stunted growth after that. But in
Mm,
the first 5 months, it's critical not to make that animal get sick. You
mm.
want to have best practices with every single thing that happens. I remember a farmer having once told me he had about 74 kids. And when the kids reached about 2 to 3 months, not 2 to 3 weeks old, he decided to let them out on the pen and carry them out into the field. But it was in the rainy season and the fields were wet. And you know what? Within a week or so, he started to have dead animals. The kids started to die. And he lost, I think, 40 something animals, young kids, to consider the diarrheas and the consider bacterial and so forth. And he was never able to catch up with it. Kid management is important. It will be there on the 27th. You have to come and learn more about it. And I don't know everything, and I learn every day because I have so much people around me with so much knowledge and people who specialize in certain parts of this goat management um, field, and I learn every day.
All right, from new business. When milking, what should I use to clean before and after to stop bacteria entering the mother? As I hear something in kids' saliva stops infection.
I think that's the iodine dip.
Yeah, the iodine you'd have to use.
The iodine dip here, they have
Mhm.
that put on the nipple.
There's a product that is coming on the market soon because the iodine it doesn't has any emollient in it. So the
Mhm.
emollient will keep the teeth moisturized and preventing cracking. But for
Mhm.
now, you can use the iodine. That will give you a good results.
All right, from Byron Lee. How you treat mange?
You treat
Very well, the mange and the external parasites.
right.
This is a big one. Mhm.
So for mange, by you can spray. So there's a product named Amitraz. There are lots of variations on the market and generics for it. You have Amitic, you have Apotraz, you have Trasvotic. So any of those can be used to treat it. So those are concentrate that you mix and spray, right? And then no, you can use any component of ivermectin or duramectin, right? So any one of those, when you inject, it will both work internally and externally. So that's how you
Right.
treat it.
From J King. What's the best dewormer for a 0 to 5 month kid?
The best worm I would say is oral. So I would say like a fenben, preferably, or a levermectin, ivermectin. So it would be
One of
a
the things,
fenben or a ivermectin.
and one of the things I also want to mention is that I'm an advocate that you should try to make your animals become what's the word now? Not immune, natural
Naturally,
immunity.
immunity,
What's the, yes, you want
natural
to make
immunity.
your animals develop natural immunity to worm burdens. So um, you're not to just practice worming. When
Mhm.
you go to worm the animals, there's a certain way of doing it. You only worm the animals that need to be wormed. You don't just go worm everybody. And you do not worm because you feel you should be worming them at 5 months or worming them at 12 months or 3 months.
Mm.
There is a way of doing it. That's why you need to come to
Check.
the on the 27th. All these things will be discussed, and you have the specialists who can, give you all the training on that. Um, do you re-
From Ayodele. Do you recommend medicated feeds to help manage coccidiosis? Coccidiosis.
Yes, I'll recommend medicated feed. And once it's available, most feed have coccidiostat in there.
right.
But
The
again,
ones in Jamaica has it, I think,
right.
yes.
So as I said, but people still do have or experience it. Again, sanitation is a problem. So as
Right.
I said, it's critical that you use your sanitation. Your sanitation is up on par. But once you're sanitizing, you have a good husbandry practices, your feed having the coccidiosis, you should not experience coccidiosis. But if you do, there are treatment options available.
Right. We answered that already.
We answered Ricky questions.
Hmm.
Brandon Lee, can we import goats from Africa?
Um, that's going to be a very expensive venture because Africa is so far away. Um, with the animal plane to fly them from Africa here, and special treatment, it might be a very expensive venture.
From Mosey Boars. I usually try to put Corid in the kid and box water once every month. Lost one of my best box to coccidiosis once, biting twice shy.
What is cordia? I don't know what is that. What is?
Biting? Coccidio.
You know what
So
that is?
it's a coccidiostat.
Okay.
It's a
Coccidiosis.
coccidiostat. So it's one of the
Okay.
drugs that are available for coccidosis, the prevention of cocci. So based on his
Okay.
experience, he's saying that he added to his water once per month
Water. Right. And it treated.
and
All
treat.
right. So, Vanessa, I know you are tired, and
Mhm.
my throat, we almost at the 2 hour. Well, we close. It's now 8:42, and I want to thank you so much, everyone. Please remember, on the 27th, the seminar will be zooming live, and the link is there. We have the link all around right now. We have our PR, Miss Gigi. She's online with us here now. She is spreading it around and making sure everybody have access to this program. Um, the Kendall facility is a very huge facility. You'll be very comfortable. Everyone knows that Mandeville is very, very cool, so it will be a very comfortable environment. And we are going to have a great day. And I can tell you, no one should miss this event. Thanks a lot, Venetia, and um, Dr. Dennie, and thanks to all the people who came online and all the questions that were asked. I didn't get to answer all the questions tonight. There were so much questions, so much things are there, and I didn't even know if I was going to make it through this because I have a sore throat. And you know, as usual, thank you for all the support, and we are looking forward to this event on the 27th. Um, and we will continue. We will continue next week, and with this platform. So keep in tune. We will continue.
From Jay, last two.
Jay, will you continue to do the farm visits, blogs? Yes, I will. um, I have the boss lady here with me. She's very, very critical in all of this that I do. A lot of people don't know this is my wife. She's here. She's the one who do all the PR stuff and all of those things for me. She's a genius with this Facebook and YouTube and all of that. It's not about me. She's the one directing all this for me, and you know we are well blessed, and that's why she's here. We make a team together. So we're going to start doing blogs, and when you have children and they are at this stage of their life, it really requires a lot from you. Different things are happening with them at this stage. My son is 8, my daughter is 7, and actually have a life that I'm living here also. But we are going to start bringing material, more things to you, because there's so much more that I want to share with you.
Thank you, Farm Solutions.
Thank you, Farm Solution.
And Brandon Lee,
and
Bosibor,
Bosibor, and everybody here.
and Mr. Ayodele must come
Yes.
to Africa.
Yes, I would love to come to Africa, and I know you're learning. I know I've been telling you a lot of stuff, and I hope it's helping you, because we want all our friends abroad everywhere to grow and grow with us, you know. We love it. I just love to help people to grow. I really love that.
All right.
Thank you all, and bye-bye.